Welcome to your regular council meeting for February the 8th, 2010. And we'll start off calling the meeting to order and also asking if Mr. Howitt could provide us with the introduction of late items, please. Mr. Howitt.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'd like to add item 6C under delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Mr. Fred Taylor regarding licensing and control of animals amendment bylaw 2010 number 4923.06. We'd like to add under the Mayor's report a presentation from the Mayor. That's item number 7. We'd like to add schedules D through H under item 9D, Commission reports, dog off leash parks. We'd like to delete item 11E, staff reports, unsightly premises 391 Albert Street. We'd like to delete item 11H, staff reports, unsightly premises 111 Terminal Avenue. And we'd like to delete item 11I, staff reports, unsightly premises, 190 Wallace Street.
Thank you very much. Could I ask for an adoption of the agenda, please? Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes?
Move adoption of the minutes of January the 25th and of February 1st as circulated.
A and B. Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have now into presentations, and we have Mr. Andrew Tucker, Director of Planning, and Ms. Christina Martins, Executive Director, Canadian Mental Health Association Mid-Island Branch, to give a presentation on Wesley Street Housing First Project. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of Council. What I'm here to talk to you about tonight is the Wesley Street Supported Housing Project. We got the first... My technicians are leaving me. Thank you, Mr. Howard. What we're here tonight to talk about is the Wesley Street Housing Project, Supported Housing Project, and I have with me Christina Martins from the Canadian Mental Health Association, who's one of the partners in this project for the city. The project began in a way back in July of 2008 after a series of public consultations. Council adopted Nanaimo's response to Homelessness Action Plan. The plan outlines the steps that the city will take in partnership with senior levels of government and the nonprofit sector to end street homelessness in our city. One of these steps outlined in the plan is the construction of up to 160 units of specially designed homes for the homeless and those at high risk of homelessness. In November of 2008, Council agreed to a memorandum of understanding with the province of British Columbia to provide capital dollars to build this housing, as well as staffing for the 160 units. The city's part of this project was to identify 3 sites which are outlined in blue on the attached map. The site that I'm talking about this evening is the first site, which is 3 lots, 437 to 445 Wesley Street. The spot in green at the top of the map is a provincially owned site, which is part of the Memorandum of Understanding, and at the bottom of the map, the other green dot represents the Tillicum-Laleham site. On April 6th of 2009, Housing Minister Rich Coleman announced funding of $14.95 million for 2 projects under the MOU, the Tillicum-Laleham 18-unit Aboriginal housing project for youth and elders at 477 10th Street, and a 40-unit supported housing project on a city-owned site at 445 Wesley Street. Each of the projects is funded under the MOU, will be managed and operated by a nonprofit society with relevant experience working with the identified target population. In October of last year, BC Housing, the City, and VIHA interviewed the nonprofit societies who had responded to a request for proposals. The successful applicant in the case of the Wesley Street site is the Canadian Mental Health Association Mid-Island Branch, based on their experience operating low-barrier housing. And I'd like to take this opportunity to hand the microphone over to Christina, who will tell you a little bit about the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Thank you. Canadian Mental Health Association Mid-Island Branch has been a part of the Nanaimo community since 1956. I've handed out a copy of a newspaper article from that date showing the first branch president receiving our charter. We were the first branch in British Columbia locally. In fact, we were the first. And since then we've been working to improve the lives and mental health of people in the Nanaimo region through various programs, services, educational opportunities, and partnerships. We currently have a 15-member board of directors and serve over 800 clients a year. The scope and variety of our programs are outlined in the Who We Are, What We Do booklet that I also handed out to you tonight. In 2008, Canadian Mental Health Mid-Island chose a very concrete way of starting to address some of the needs of the homeless population in Nanaimo. We purchased the Balmoral Hotel at 126 Halliburton Street and set about to preserving it as low-barrier social housing. This 20-unit hotel was in rough shape, and the tenants who were there when we bought it told us that they hadn't had heat for 2 years. Since then, we have replaced the roof, the heating system, the hot water system, replaced all the exterior doors, installed security cameras, and made significant other minor repairs to the building to get it to the habitable point. Other work we have done is renovated the former strip club that was on the main floor into offices for our collaborative homeless outreach and support team, which is a team built out of Vancouver Island Health Authority Mental Health and Addictions outreach staff, Canadian Mental Health outreach staff, and Ministry of Housing and Social Development outreach staff. We also renovated the former 3-bedroom manager suite at the back of the building to become the CMHA administration offices. And the staff that work there during the day are basically the staff for the tenants during the day in the building. We've spent over $500,000 so far on renovations and have been working for almost a year with Canada Mortgage and Housing to secure another $300,000 to complete the tenant suite improvements. These suite improvements will include exterior windows, a complete replacement of all the plumbing in the building, bathroom fixtures, and all new interior doors, and a laundry room. This laundry room creation will mean that we go from 20 units to 19. While this work has taken a lot longer than we had expected, we're confident that 2010 is the year the renovations will be completed. When we purchased the Balmoral Hotel, we inherited 18 tenants. Some have moved on their own, some have been housed in more appropriate situations, typically where there's more on-site support of a more intensive nature, and 3 have been evicted. While we maintain a low-barrier approach to housing, we still maintain basic rules that guarantee the safety and security of all the staff and the tenants in the building. Because housing of this type requires 24/7 staffing, we began early to seek operational funding, but we have been unsuccessful. In order to address the staffing needs, we have again partnered with the Nanaimo Mental Health and Addictions team, who have placed their own staff in the building on the afternoon shift for tenant support. CMHA funds currently out of its own resources the graveyard shift, and our administrative staff basically form the day shift. But this partnership has worked extraordinarily well for Canadian Mental Health and for the tenants of the building, and all but 3 tenants currently have signed up for case management with Nanaimo Mental Health and Addictions. Vocational and social programs have been implemented, and tenants clean the building and get paid for it. They also have a social club with opportunities to participate in community events that they would not normally have an opportunity to do. This is the kind of collaborative service provision that will be vital for the success of the Wesley Street program. Much like the Balmoral, we envision a variety of services and supports to be available to the tenants of the Wesley Street building. Case management, the Assertive Community Treatment Team, all out of Nanaimo Mental Health and Addictions, will be vital to the success of the tenants and to the building. 24/7 is part of the 24/7 operational funding is part of the BC Housing Package, so this building, when it's complete, will have that staffing in place on the day that it opens. Partnerships with other agencies will also be sought out depending on the needs of the tenants. A lot of who we currently have on our waiting list for the Balmoral are women that we cannot house in the Balmoral for a variety of reasons. So hopefully partnerships with the Women's Resource Centre and other women-serving agencies in Nanaimo will naturally come about through the construction process and through our work in the community. It's also a goal of the programming in the building to connect tenants with supports and assistance in the community so that they develop a comprehensive network of supports outside of the building. And the question has come to me, what will we do as an operator of the development to help the development fit into the neighborhood? CMHA has worked very hard with the Balmoral project at working with the South End Community Association in addressing their concerns around the impact that the building would have on their neighborhood. We have a Good Neighbor monthly meeting that's attended by South End representatives, Neighbours of Nob Hill representatives, Vancouver Island Health Authority, CMHA, and tenants, and Ministry of Social Housing and Development. We've determined that what the neighborhood wants is a process where they can bring concerns and complaints and have those addressed in a way that is beneficial to both the people in the building and the neighborhood. I think our success with the South End Community Association has been tremendous in that they have come to us with concerns, we have tried to address them, and we have a much better relationship than the day that we bought the building. CMHA does and will continue to work collaboratively and in partnership with the city and with neighborhood groups, with tenants and with others to address the concerns and ensure that Wesley Street neighborhood sees us as a valuable and responsive member of their community. Thank you.
As part of our commitment to get this information out to the community, we'll be distributing the booklet, which you have on your desk in front of you, to the neighborhood later this week. It explains what the project is about and how people can participate in the development of the project as it moves forward. In terms of the timeline, we're still very much at the early stages of development of the project. CMHA is in the process right now of hiring their development consultant, an architect and general contractor. We're expecting that over the summer months there'll be development of the building design and the building drawings, and those will be submitted in the fall of 2010 with construction starting in early of 2011. And hopefully have people moving in by the end of 2011. So this booklet will be distributed to the neighborhood, as I say, in the coming days. And tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 for members of the press, there is a briefing, and Councillor Patchy will be chairing that along with our partners from Canadian Mental Health Association, also Vancouver Island Health Authority. So exciting times for this project as it starts to move forward. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. I might just mention that later in the agenda, actually it's on section 11A in tonight's agenda, the fire suppression system is another thing that Council will be looking at tonight, and it's obviously another important issue that has to be dealt with, and we will shortly. But I see no questions, so thank you very much. I do see a question. Thank you. Councillor Holdham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a question for Christina Martin. I was struck by the partnerships that you formed to staff the Balmoral, and that it seemed to be really appropriate agencies that are doing that. But how sustainable is that without secured funding for regular staffing?
Well, the Health Authority has committed to their afternoon shift, and Canadian Mental Health is working really hard to find the funding that would continue the overnight shift. They've made a commitment that the building needs to be staffed, and so we continue to look. We do have very good partners in BC Housing who are trying to find funds for us to do that, but at the moment, with the current climate, those just aren't available, so we're funding it on our own at the moment.
Yes, okay. Well, good luck with that, and best wishes. It's a wonderful program you're doing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, just to remind people now that they are a non-profit organization, not a government-funded organization. VHA is government-funded, and the other organizations they deal with. So it'd be great to see if somebody from the government could kick up some more money for this, because this is a non-profit group that works across Canada and is local and does a lot of work for our community. So it'd be nice to see somebody buck up.
Yeah, good point. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Ms. Martin, I'm totally impressed by the way that you and your group have worked together with the South End Community Association. It's a wonderful example of how things should be done. And when we start talking about Wesley Street tomorrow, I hope we can use your expertise to do the same in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, I see no further questions. Thank you, Ms. Martins, and thank you, Mr. Tucker. Great presentation.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll move on to the next item. It's delegations pertaining to the 2010-2014 financial plan. Any delegations here that wish to address that? Seeing none, we'll move into the next item. Ms. Diane Brennan, welcome. You have up to 10 minutes.
Worship, Council, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about the cuts to legal aid and how they will impact the citizens of Nanaimo. The information provided to you by the BC Government Employees Union, I believe it's in your agenda, lists the cuts that have occurred to legal aid from 2002 onward. And you'll see that legal aid's budget was cut by 40% in 2002, higher than any other program in the Attorney General's ministry. The 40% budget cut was achieved by closing offices and laying off staff across the province. The Nanaimo office was closed at that time. And the Attorney General told the Legal Services Society that they had to virtually eliminate family law coverage. And it was limited to services for child protection purposes and for domestic violence restraining orders. The Attorney General further told the Legal Services Society that they had to eliminate all poverty law advocacy services. To do nothing for battered women except to get them a restraining order, in my view, was a cruel and cynical act. The bare bones level of legal aid for family law is still here. It continues today. And families are left to navigate the legal system on their own. And imagine how that is for them. As mentioned, poverty law services were eliminated in 2002. Poverty law advocacy provides legal assistance to people whose ability to feed and shelter themselves is threatened. So in 2002, that assistance, that legal assistance was gone. Poof, eliminated. And since 2002, we've seen a corresponding rise in homelessness and hunger. Shelters are overflowing. Food banks scramble to provide enough food for families. And municipal governments like Nanaimo are left to pick up the pieces of these unconscionable cuts. And Nanaimo has direct experience of this. You're grappling with the homelessness issues. And they eliminated legal aid that would have assisted people to maintain their shelter. In 2002, or 2008, we got our hopes up. The Attorney General and the Legal Services Society created the Justice Access Center in Nanaimo. And it included some legal information and legal assistance for families and for poverty law issues. Nanaimo was chosen because its demographics showed that it scored very high on all of the accepted poverty indicators. So Nanaimo was chosen out of every other community in BC because we represented such a high rate of poverty and all of the legal issues that accompany it. The Justice Access Center was opened to great fanfare. The media was invited. The Attorney General, Wally Opal, was there, along with many of his senior bureaucrats. The Legal Services Society Board was represented. All of the senior Legal Services Society staff were there to celebrate. The mayor was invited to speak. The 2 MLAs were there. There was standing room only at this opening. And the dignitaries spoke about the crying need for legal services that were going to be offered at the Justice Access Centre. And today we see the closure of the legal aid side of the Justice Access Centre due to inadequate funding of legal aid. Now, it's not hard to make a case for the need for enhanced family law. I think we all know that. You just have to read your papers to know that the women's services here are in great demand. But the civil law, civil legal aid might need some explaining. And I'm just going to give you a couple of examples that represent the kind of work that I did when I was employed there. These are examples that are composites, but they really give you a flavor of the kinds of issues that people bring to a Justice Access Centre to ask for help with. A single woman with children receives a notice to end her tenancy. She received it because her estranged husband showed up the night before at her apartment and began to loudly bang on her door and threaten her and her children. The next morning, she found an eviction notice taped to her door for causing a disturbance. Now, she's on welfare. She has no money for a lawyer. She's not literate in English. And she needs legal help to help her maintain her home for herself and her children. Well, she won't get it. She simply won't get it. She won't get it here in Nanaimo, and she won't get it anywhere in BC. A young man with a family was employed in the forest industry. He was employed there for several years. And 8 months ago, he was laid off. His home is being foreclosed. He has several other debts that young families accumulate, and it's making it very difficult for him to manage for himself and his family. He's got part-time employment, and he thinks he'll be full-time in just a couple of months. But debt collectors are calling him at his office. They're harassing him at work. And he needs legal help. He needs legal help to help him with his foreclosure, and he needs legal help to stop the harassing phone calls from collection agencies. He's not going to get any help. He simply is going to have to deal with that on his own. So every day low-income people in BC are denied access to justice because of inadequacies in the legal aid system. Unresolved legal problems have serious consequences for people and for the communities they live in. They affect the proper functioning of the justice system and the increased costs to other social services. Inadequate access to publicly funded legal services has the greatest impact on the most vulnerable, disadvantaged, and powerless members of our society. So it's on behalf of people like this that I'm asking you to please send a letter urging the Attorney General and the Premier to restore and increase legal aid funding and to restore the regional centres, and in particular the Nanaimo's Justice Access Centre. And I think there's a number of people that have come tonight because they too want you to send those letters to government. So if they would stand up, you'll see. So I would really urge you to respond to the community and stand up for people who simply can't do it on their own. Thank you.
Okay, before you go, we do have a question from a couple questions now. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Would it be appropriate for me to now move on the correspondence that we have under number 16 and move that we accede to the request by Mr. Brenton Walters on behalf of the BC Government and Service Employee Union, requesting that Council consider a motion to write letters to the provincial government, asking them to restore and increase funding for legal aid and to keep regional legal aid centres and the Law Line programme open.
I second it after we receive the delegation.
Okay, it's on the floor now. Councillor Hold'em.
Same motion, but I'm pleased to second it.
I think Councillor McNabb already has.
Okay.
No further questions?
We received the delegation.
I'd like one question.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Missed it. No, it's okay.
Councillor Kipp?
I just wanted to know, what's the operational cost for the legal aid center in Nanaimo?
I don't have
A
the
guesstimate.
operation. I don't, but I know that in 2002 when it was shut, it was $600,000.
Not
So
much.
perhaps 8 now. It's a smaller office.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I guess no further questions. Thank you very much.
Do we still get to vote on the motion?
It's not on the floor yet.
It's not on the floor yet. No. Did you want to put that on the floor? That I think it was moved by...
Well, he asked that it be brought forward after the delegation.
Okay. That's what we normally wait till the delegation's finished. Now it's forward, so yes, and it'll be seconded now.
I move that Council accedes to the request by Mr. Brenton Walters on behalf of the BCG and Service Employee Union, requesting that Council consider a motion to write letters to the provincial government asking them to restore and increase funding for legal aid and to keep regional legal aid centres and the Law Line programme open. And I move that.
Councillor McNabb seconded. Further discussion, Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem in the City of Nanaimo reading the letters. But the preamble to the resolution that's being requested, I don't think it's in order for us to participate in that, because I think that we need to send a message as a community of our concern, because we're some time down the road in the very near future, we're going to also be asking for other commitments as it relates to the provincial government. So, the whereases and that I think should be eliminated, and just the letters should be the topic that we send.
Councillor Hold'em.
Mr. Chairman, in fact, that was the motion. Just as Councillor Paggi made it, it did not include the whereas clauses.
Well, my understanding, Mr. Chairman, was with regards to Brenton Walters' request, and the request from Mr. Walters is to include the others. And I'm happy that my understanding is now, and for staff to have it in the minutes, it's just that the letters, the rest of the correspondence on page 126 is what we're dealing with.
And my motion was to write letters.
Okay, without the whereas, etc. Okay, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. My comments were just similar in so much as it's essentially the last two paragraphs of page 126 that the motion reflects, as opposed to the previous 5.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everyone understand the motion? It's
Yes.
been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I think it's important that people understand that most of what was discussed is entirely provincial and will be within their mandate to decide yes or no, but I certainly support the letter as well, because I think I'm just trying to clarify that Nanaimo, the City of Nanaimo, really has very little control over it, but we certainly will send a letter and support the request, and thank you very much. Next delegation, Mr. Fred Taylor, 204 Emery Way, and it's to do with licensing and control of animals, Amendment Bylaw 2010. Mr. Taylor, you have up to 10 minutes.
Mayor Rattan and council members, before council are recommendations to amend our licensing control of animals bylaw in order to accommodate chickens on properties less than 1 acre. Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, chaired by Councillor Hold'em, has entertained the question and makes recommendations to the council without adoption of the minutes by the committee. I also raised question to the mandate of the committee and its authority to recommend amendments to our licensing and control of animals bylaw. Well, one may say the production of food is the answer, but does the control of animals fit the picture? Where are the committee's recommendations on the ever-increasing water rates in this community? As everyone knows, water is essential in support of life like chickens and livestock and the growing of food, vegetables, etc. Soon, we should hear recommendations from the committee on how to achieve farm status for lower taxation within the city. I understand our official community plan's intent is to support neighborhoods and neighborhood character. Sometimes it takes more than good fences to make good neighbors. Many areas of our community have special rules to keep up the tone of the neighborhood. Building schemes covenants are special rules which imply rights and duties over and above municipal bylaws within many subdivisions in our community in regards to poultry and livestock. To say they're not allowed. These building schemes covenants were entertained by the subdivision approving officer of the day with no objection. I believe Mr. Swaby, as a past approving officer, would confirm. The Board of Variance has no authority to be in conflict with a covenant. I remain of the question of any municipal council being in conflict as well. Don't forget, your employee accepted all papers in approval of a development. Strata corporations may restrict animals by bylaw over any municipal direction. It's even new rules. Appears to me the squeaky wheel gets the grease, or should I say the chickens. November the 23rd, 2009 certainly provided evidence there was and remains violation of our licensing and control of animals bylaw. Examine the petition. Many names are not from within the city boundaries. Tonight's recommendation, the resolution? This pattern should open the door for parking tickets, dog license violations, etc. Just gather the clan, you should win. A definite control is the license of all animals. Why should the dog owner be the only one who pays? Remember, the animal contractor looks after pickup of bicycles, Crown-owned deer, cats, rabbits, etc., etc. I believe the door-to-door canvas for dog license is a questionable search of one's property, a scam leading to higher license fees. Here is a golden opportunity, or let's say egg, to help pay for animal control, a benefit to everyone. The same license fee for chickens and livestock. I expect neighborhood complaints for the animal shelter. And why should not all animals help pay? Thank you.
Thank you. I see one question. Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased to find that at least one person is paying close attention to what the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee is doing, the one that I chair.
Yeah, because the minister's not there, so I don't know what you do.
Well, they're always there at our meetings, and we approve them. And I'm not sure where they're stored, but I'm sure they're available if you wanted to ask staff for them.
They should go back until it's
on this
approved.
issue, I just wanted to point out to you that this was a reference from staff. It involves land use, and both the official community plan and the rezoning bylaw that our committee deals with, it certainly fits into that category of land use. So they were asked us for a recommendation, and we made it. With good grounds, I might add.
Very, very well. I grow vegetables and I need water. I haven't heard nothing yet.
Is that a land use?
Yep.
Okay, well, let's move along, but I appreciate the presentation. We're going to move in. You finished yours?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next item is under the Mayor's report. Two things, actually three things. The first thing I just wanted to mention is that I have here a letter covered by file 2530-20, and it's dated February 2nd, 2010. And I just want to make sure, this is kind of like school, and I think it's important that everyone understand that we have amongst us here the city manager, who does an outstanding job and has not only contributed a great deal to the city in the last 2 years, but he has attained perfect attendance in 2008 and 2009, and I have the certificates here for you, and they will be provided to you at a later date. Thank you, Mr. Kenny. We want everyone to know that you're working diligently all the time and have not missed a day off. Kind of incredible. Okay, and another thing is I see no questions on it. So it's the gentleman in red, the second one over. And the other two things I want to mention on a more serious note. Well, this is serious. I think it's quite an achievement to have perfect attendance for 2 years straight. Is that on Monday, February the 22nd, Dr. Ralph Nielsen and Ms. O'Keefe from VIU will be here to make a presentation on the circumstances surrounding VIU and their views for the future. And following that on Monday, March the 22nd, Mike Cooper and possibly the chairman will be here as well from the Nanaimo Airport Authority to give us an update on those things. What we're trying to do is to each month or every 6 weeks bring in delegations bringing an update and some positive news hopefully to us that Nanaimo is doing well. We had the gentleman from the Harmac come out here and gave us an update in December the 14th, with all the positive things that are happening there. And now we're going to hear from VIU and from the airport. Okay, proclamations. There's only two of them, and I might as well read them myself. It's that 2010, February 20th, is Kinsmen and Kinnets Day, and that 2010, February 14th to 2010, February 20th, is Kinsmen and Kinnets Week, a celebration of kinsmen and kinnets in Canada in the city of Nanaimo, and I so proclaim. And that the month of March is Kidney Health Month in the city of Nanaimo, and we also proclaim that as well. Commission reports. We're going to go into minutes of the Parks and Recreation and Culture Commission meeting held 2009 November 25, and I think, Councillor, are you going to be...
I'm going to move the minutes, yes, Your Worship.
Okay, and second, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And I'll move the minutes of January the 5th.
Okay, second as well. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Move into 2010 cultural operating grants.
No,
Sorry?
you've missed the property giftings, Your Worship.
Proper gift.
Maybe that's
Right here.
4041.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I must have a page missing in mine. But,
Page 40.
Thank you. That I don't have a C is my problem.
Yeah, Your Worship, then if you'd like, I will make the recommendation.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, hang on. This thing is punched in backwards. I have two sets. We want somebody flogged from that department.
There goes two.
It was, yeah, okay. One gold star is going up now. It's property gifting, 5978 Acaris Drive, and the Commission's recommendation that the Council direct staff to I'll turn it over to you as soon as I get off the.
Okay.
I'm on a rant here, and I don't want to stop.
That's okay.
Add this gifted property to the City of Nanaimo Parks system, and that it be identified as parkland. And 2, that the property be zoned Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Zone 1.
Second motion.
Now, we'll let you carry on with the rest of them here. You can do the dog off-leash part.
Then we have to vote on that.
Okay, well, it's moved in favor. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Carry on.
Thank you, Worship. Dog off-leash parks. The Commission recommends that Council approve the phase-in implementation plan as follows. Priority 1, which is for the year 2010, Devon Park, Beaufort Park, Diver Lake Park, and Colliery Dam Park. Now, Diver Lake Park would be seasonal from October the 1st to March the 31st, and Colliery Dam Park would only be from dawn to 10 a.m. daily. Priority 2 for the year 2011 would be grounds next to the Nanaimo Ice Centre, the Northfield Rest Area, and Groveland Park. Priority 3 will be Linley Valley Park, and that is for 2012. And then other beach accesses, for instance, Invermere Beach, Beach Estate Park, and places yet to be determined. All proposed off-leash parks will be implemented for a one-year trial basis, following which the success will be evaluated, and I so move.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a seconder for that? And I just want to mention there's also some questions as well. But I think it's important to note that there's a priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3. It's 2010, 2011, 2013. So we're not going to be imposing 9 parks at this time. It's going to be 3 or 4. At the following year, 3. And the following year will be 2. So at the end of the first year, which is 2010, if there's no problems or issues, I think then it'll move ahead, because there's been some concern that we're going to have all 9 at one time, and that's certainly not the case. Councillor Sherry.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, on the schedule here, they show Schedule D, and that's relation to Calry Dam Park. Now, is that the whole park, or the upper limit on the park, or exactly what portion or what of the Calry Dam Park?
Your Worship, Jeff Ritchie, the Senior Manager of Parks, who went through the process, will answer that, the direct location of, or the exact location of the Calry Dam Park.
Ms. Ritchie?
The exact location, it's the upper reservoir. So the parking is off in Nanaimo Lakes Road. There's a parking area, and it's a loop trail just around the upper reservoir. And that's from the opening of the park till 10 a.m. daily.
Okay, because I don't see a Schedule D with my agenda, that's all.
Yeah, it was added as a late item, Councillor Sherry. It should be in your late package. And just as an example on this one, so this isn't an example we're trying, another test of other communities have done this, where it's done by the hours of the day. So we're trying an early morning trial for this particular park, so it's not off leash all the time. It's only for those hours of the day. It's another way of serving the dog owners in that way.
47.1.
It's page 47.1, Councillor Sherry.
Thank you.
Any follow-up? You okay?
No, that's fine. I think there's concern raised by the neighborhood about when we start saying Calry Dam Park, and the most of the park that the neighborhood, I would think, would have the major concern is what we used to call number 1 dam, okay, which was the lower dam, okay. So you're moving it away from there, and you're going to the west.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct.
I think it's important for the public have the opportunity to identify the parameters of where it's going to be located.
Good point. Councillor Holden.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I can support this recommendation primarily because there will be a one-year trial basis for any parks that are designated this way, and so we'll be able to tell whether this is working or not. The chairman of Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission, Councillor McNabb, tells me that there are 11,000 dogs registered in the city of Nanaimo. So it's obvious that we need to provide for them somehow. But I just want to make sure that dog owners know that the expectation here is that dogs, even though they may be off leash, would still be under the owner's control and within the owner's sight. Especially on parks, I think, with trails that have turns and loops in them and so on. A big, frisky, frolicking dog like one I had some time ago could easily really startle somebody if it comes bounding around a corner without any apparent control over it. So I just want to make sure that the understanding here is that, as it is with most dog owners, that the dog would still be under control even though it is allowed to be off leash at various times, and see how it works at the end of the year.
Okay, Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, too, will be supporting the motion. I just have, through you, a question or two for staff. It indicates on page 44 of the Parks and Rec report and also on our green pages that all proposed off-leash parks will be implemented for a one-year trial basis, following which the success will be evaluated. And I'm just curious as to what objectives will be utilized to determine the level of success. And that's question one. And who will be undertaking that exercise to, and at what expense?
Right. So our main evaluation that we'll be doing on that will be monitoring user conflict. So really how the actual dog owners are experiencing it, what conflicts they may have in that area. We'll be taking those kinds of advice through the Parks Operations Office, Parks Recreation and Culture, and then we'll be taking that to the Parks Recreation and Culture Commission after a year and really just coming back with a report on how we feel it's working. Also, we do use our animal control bylaw services, who also will be patrolling these areas and monitoring these areas. We'll get reports from them also on how effective they believe these parks are functioning.
Thank you. So then the success will be evaluated and determined based on incident reports to Parks and Rec?
That's correct. Incident reports and also how the actual dog owners feel that it's actually functioning for them as well as other users in the park.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnstone.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We've had some emails from concerned citizens, and I think we can assure them that there will be no removal of trees in the parks, because that was a concern expressed by some citizens that we would be removing trees to make more trails, and that's not the case. So just to clarify that.
Good point. Okay. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I'm fully supportive of all three priorities. I know that Mr. Harding and Mr. Jeffries and Mr. Ritchie, and others in the Parks and Recreation Department have worked very hard on a number of very successful open houses that were extremely well attended, and I think we have listened. To give you an example, on the priority 3, up until about a week ago, we had Indian Beach as part of Neck Point Park, and at that particular open house, we, even though the numbers haven't been tabulated yet, we got a very good indication that people just didn't want it there. So we have listened and we have taken it off. So it is a good process. I can tell you, having sat on the very first off-leash committee about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, at that time it was like pulling teeth, and we succeeded in getting 3. One of them was not working well at all, that being the power line by Westwood Lake. The Bevan Park one is very well attended and can use some improvement, as Mr. Ritchie and I discovered this morning when we visited there. And the Cable Bay one also is a very good one for many people. The problem with the first and the last one is that they're too far out of town, and so we've really made an effort to make some geographical sense in this distribution, and as I said, I will support this fully. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship, my only concern is that by phasing in, we're congregating dogs in one park or 2 parks. And from my look at this list, priority 1, what I believe Bevan Park, Beaufort, Diver Lake, and Colliery are all on the south side of town. In 2011, the Nanaimo Ice Centre, the Northville Rest Area, then Groveland Park's the only one in the north end that has really, and then Lindley Valley, of course, priority 3 in 2012, and other beach access. There's not many parks spread apart. Are they across the whole community, or does it look mostly in the south or mid to town?
You're right, Councillor Cook. It is right now more centralized, and we have a few in the south. In the north area, it's just more difficult with what parks we have in the north to be able to facilitate dog off-leash. We just don't have the opportunities in the north that we do in other locations.
I appreciate that, and my concern too is with vicious dogs, but I don't think a lot of people do take vicious dogs to off-leash. If they do, there needs to be something. I've always said for a vicious dog, put the owner to sleep. It's not the dog's problem, and dogs are the only relatives we can choose. So I think we got to get on with this. I'd like to see the priorities sped up so it spreads it out quicker and looks at it from there. But I appreciate the work staff did. My input back at the public hearings were great, and the parks, they were wonderful, well run, and I think staff's done a good job. Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that, and I also just add that there is a requirement, even though these areas are somewhat distant from the downtown core, all these sites still require the owner to pick up after the dog, unless the dog's extremely well trained. Okay, question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Travel, item E now, travel assistance application from the Wellington Secondary. Sorry, Councillor, do you have another?
No, I'm just going to make the recommendation.
Sorry, you're going to do that. I'm dazed and confused. I apologize. That's for you to continue on with.
Okay. Commission's recommendation is that Council approve the application for a travel assistant grant for the Wellington Secondary Band in the amount of $2,000. The application meets all of the grant criteria, Your Worship.
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And Pacific Sport request for funding. Commission's recommendation is that Council approve $15,000 in funding to Pacific Sport, and staff's recommendation is that Council direct staff to provide funding from Council contingency.
Second motion.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
2010 Culture Operating Grants, Your Worship. The Commission is recommending that Council approve the following 2010 Cultural Operating Fund grants. Acapella Plus Choir Society, $2,300. Arts Alive, $1,800. Arts Council, $10,050. The Blues Festival Society, $7,880. Centre for the Arts Society, $6,190. Chamber Orchestra, $3,230. Conservatory of Music, $7,200. The Crimson Coast Dance, $14,800. Francophone Association, $9,531. Malaspina Choir, $2,360. The Nanaimo Concert Band, $4,790. The Nanaimo Tidesmen Barbershop Chorus, $1,550. The Pacific Institute of Bagpiping, $2,105. Theatre One, $28,000. The Tozan Cultural Society, $6,595. The Vancouver Island Symphony, $59,300. And Western Edge Theatre, $6,460. For a total, Your Worship, of $174,141, and I so move.
Okay, is there a seconder? Okay, and any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Worship. 2010 Arts, Cultural and Festival Event Grants. The Commission recommends that Council approve the following 2010 Arts, Cultural and Festival Event Grants. African Heritage Black History Celebration, $745. Arts Council Short Film Festival, $1,635. Art Gallery Festival of Banners, $1,120. Ballroom Dance Island Fantasy Ball, $2,145. Beat of the Street Little Woodstock Festival, $785. Blues Society Summertime Blues Fest was originally included in there, but that particular event has been cancelled for this year, so there's no grant. Botanical Garden Celebration of Island Gardening, $810. Canada Day Celebration 2010, $1,640. Celtic Performing Arts CeltFest, $1,905. Child Development Silly Boat Regatta, $830. Coaltown Festival, $1,090. Crimson Coast Voices in Motion Bodies That Sing, $2,475. Francophone Maple Sugar Festival, $3,975. The Friends of Nanaimo Jazz, a Jazz Affair, $2,075. Harbour City Jazz Fest, $1,175. Highland Dance Competition, $1,075. The Malaspina Choir 40th Anniversary Celebration, $950. Men's Resource Centre Father's Day in the Park, $1,035. Nanaimo Quilters Guild, the Material Magic Quilt Show, $1,660, and the Vancouver Island Symphony in the Harbour, $5,540, for a total, Your Worship, of $32,665, and I so move.
Okay, is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question through you to staff. In 2008, in this particular category, we gifted, if you will, $161,000. And this year it's $32,000 as of this time, as of this writing. In 09, I don't have the 09 numbers unless I've missed it. I apologize if I have. But I'm just curious as if it's a considerable reduction to the requests and what grants that we're extending. So I'm just curious if those items that may, or those requests, we may find them somewhere else.
Yes, Councillor Beswick, if I can answer that. So the numbers you're referring to are the grant previously that the Council awarded. That's the operating grants. So the funding that you mentioned for the 2008, that would have been the operating grants, whereas this one, the one you're looking at right now is the festival grants.
So arts, cultural, and festival grants.
That's correct.
Are different than the arts and culture operating grants.
That's correct.
Is there any way that those items can be consolidated?
They're a different program. The operating grant is what Council did a number of years ago of doing $2 per capita to assist cultural organizations in their overall operations, and that's where we get the 174,000. There's actually another number, but the 174,000 based on $2 per capita. Those go to operating groups and organizations for operations throughout the year. Whereas the grant you're looking at right now, this is similar to the sports, the event grants, the sport events grants. This is just for either weekend festivals or week-long festivals that specifically go to that one festival operation. So be it Canada Day, or the different ones that you've seen here on the list.
So then is it reasonable for me to assume that the operating grant that we extend, we see their operating budgets when we make those decisions?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a detailed criteria that's followed that's evaluated by the Cultural Committee. Each group is interviewed by the Cultural Committee. They have to be a legal nonprofit society, and they have to provide their financial statements to the Cultural Group when they're being reviewed.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item we get into is development services, and we're into 11A, Canadian Mental Health Association request for funding and support for Balmoral Hotel renovation. Let me just give you the recommendation, bear with me. And that Council provide $52,719.63 for the City's Housing Legacy Fund to the Canadian Mental Health Association, CMHA, for costs associated with the installation of a fire suppression system in the residential portion of the Balmoral Hotel.
So moved.
You did move? Okay, and it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Section B, 11B, amendments to licensing and control of animals bylaw. Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, which is PNAC, recommendation that the Council support the inclusion of poultry up to 4 chickens or ducks and excluding specifically roosters within the city on lots less than 1 acre or 0.04 hectares in size. Staff recommendation that Council will receive the report pertaining to licensing and control of animals amendment bylaw 2010 number 4923.06, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda.
Staff recommendation.
Move in second. Okay, and it's on the. Do you want to go ahead, Councillor Pecci?
Thank you, Worship. I just have a question about the top of Blue Pages, number 65, where staff is recommending that to further alleviate some of the issues that may arise, we then go into their proposal, which I'll vote in favor for, where we will make a differential depending on which you can have either 4 chickens or ducks or 2 chickens and 2 ducks. And, I'm having trouble understanding what the big difference is between having 4 chickens or 2 chickens, regardless of the size. I think any coop that one would build would hold 4, I would hope. As I said, I will vote for this, of course, but maybe staff can explain one more time why we have come to this suggestion.
Your Worship, it is a bit arbitrary and certainly up to Council's discretion in terms of how many, what type of density you would like to put with the chicken coop. Staff believe this is a reasonable first attempt in terms of limiting the number of chickens on the smaller lots at this time to establish whether or not there is conflicts between the chickens on the small lots and neighbors as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sherry.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, which bylaw enforcement does this fall under? Does this under the contract that we have with the animal control, or is this the bylaw section within the city?
Your Worship, there's certainly crossover between them, but primarily this would be enforced by city bylaw officers, not the contract.
Okay, well, I have concern there because even though this is being proposed as a new venture, the number of phone calls and that are expected in the past to come in as it relates to this, and the workload of our current bylaw enforcement officers, are we going to see a request from that department to increase people to patrol?
Your Worships, I think this is an excellent point Councillor Sherry's raising, and one that staff are equally concerned about. Some investigation has occurred with experience in other communities and have found that the amount of enforcement is less than probably I have expected. It's certainly unknown because this is a new function and it'll depend on the level of complaints. If there's a lot of complaints, there'll be a lot of time, and if there's not many complaints, it'll be smooth sailing. But other communities have actually found the implementation of this to be quite smooth. So we're hoping that occurs here.
But once you start into a function, and that you can no doubt expect a request for additional funds for personnel. Now, there seems to be no indication here of a charging of a license fee or that as it relates to people that wish to have these animals on their property, as opposed to currently and if I hear correctly the number this evening of the projected number of dogs within this community, what our licensing fee is. Is there any consideration been given to having a fee as it relates to these to foreshadow additional costs be enforcement officers?
Your Worship, what staff is proposing in the report is that we come back after a year of evaluating how we've done, and this would be one of the areas that we would possibly report to Council on how it's going and whether or not further licensing fees are required to make this more cost effective for the taxpayers.
But where I have problems with that, Mr. Chairman, to staff, is that if we get complaints, there's going to be the need for hiring personnel, and where's those funds going to be coming from? Are they coming out of the council contingency fund, or what? To cover those costs.
Your Worship, we wouldn't hire anybody without coming back to Council with a budget request, and so the earliest we'd be able to add staff would be 2011, unless there was an extreme situation and we made an extraordinary request for Council to fund it out of contingency. But you're right, if there was a request for additional money in 2011, it would, in the absence of a licensing fee, it would come from general taxation.
The other concern that I have with this report, we indicate a pen size, 4 foot by 4 foot per chicken or duck, whatever. So you have 4 of these animals, then you got a 16 by 16. And then you start looking at setbacks as it relates to buildings and the property line. You know, who's going to be enforcing to make sure that the normal 5-foot setback is being adhered to, and the pens aren't adjacent to your neighbor's kitchen window that receives all the deal. These are things that have happened in this community before when we were dealing with this issue. And I don't think they've gone away. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to be supporting the recommendation to change the bylaw enforcing to allow for this use within the community, because
The motion on the floor is simply to receive the report?
That's fine. I'm receiving the report, and I'm giving you the concerns that I have found within the report, and I think I'm entitled to express my concerns. Is that right?
You are.
Okay. No, but we're receiving the report now. You're taking it being recommended as on the bylaws later this evening, okay? And that's the part that I'm making my comments in relation to that. Because as it indicated there, you start off with, you're going to have 2 chickens and 2 ducks, or are you going to have 4 chickens and 4 ducks? And then the next thing you know, are we going to have the sheep and the goats? Thank you.
Councillor Bestwick.
Well, a couple of councillors are offside. They're committing some fouls.
Oh, mercy.
Just for clarification, on the executive summary, it indicates on page 63 that on line 3, executive summary, keeping of no more than 4 hens or ducks or other domestic animals. Is it and or is it just or? So when we get to having 4, whatever, 6 dogs and 3 cats and 12 pigeons, how does the...
Your Worship, the bylaw is intended to address just ducks and chickens at this point.
So we're currently permitted to have any amount of domestic animals?
No. You're restricted under the animal control bylaw for how farm animals are kept. In terms of cats and dogs, we aren't restricting them at all in this bylaw.
And what is a pigeon classified as?
Not a duck or a chicken.
So it's not considered a domestic animal?
No, Your Worship, without going back through the bylaw, there might be reference to carrier pigeons, but this bylaw amendment is specific to just the ducks and the chickens. If council would like clarification on that, we could hold back proceeding with the bylaw.
Then just my question is, do we, within the city that we're talking about that is going to be impacted by this, do we have many homes or residences that we know of with pigeons?
Your Worship, I'm not familiar at all with the keeping of pigeons in the city.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kitt.
in my face on this one. The bylaw staff, I think, will have very limited problem. Victoria's had this bylaw in place for years, and they've had absolutely no problem. They've said that. On page 67, Dr. Lorna Mead has talked about it in her third paragraph, the parallel matter to not only that the hens and the chickens should be treated fairly, and there's not much problem with transmission of disease to humans with a small flock. The positive side of keeping it enhances our household's food security, and we're really working on that. And I don't think there's going to be a pile of people that run out and get chickens right away. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. Our dog licensing people are going door to door to talk about dog licensing. Maybe they can look for chickens and make a note, and we can start to look at it after. I really think this is an important one to step us back to the future. Food security is hugely important. It's a high-level protein. I mean, we've passed funds in this council to do egg programs for kids in school. My look on this is that around local schools, people will have chickens. It will increase the kids' ability to understand caring for livestock and things. I think it's an absolutely positive. Our local schools can have more access to real high-level protein. It makes our community kind of a lot better place to live, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question for Councillor Johnstone, but before we start, I just wanted to point out one thing that can I do this, or you got a problem with it? You don't need to. That licensing and control of animals amendment bylaw, which comes up here, is to include poultry up to 4 chickens or ducks, excluding roosters. So the question that was brought up earlier: are animals involved? And in the staff report, but the bylaw that we'll be voting on tonight simply deals with 4 poultry, which can be 2 chickens, 2 ducks, or any division that you want to come up with, to 4. Councillor Johnstone.
Yes, Your Worship. Do you want to continue discussing this matter now, or do you want to wait until it comes up under the bylaws section? Because I have a few. I don't want to continue the dialogue now if we're going to be discussing.
We are only allowed it one time, so you can do it now and not later, or do it later and not now.
I want to ask staff, if you like, how do the staff propose in this bylaw that one will dispose of or slaughter chickens if we're not going to allow them to do it on their premises? I can't foresee people taking their chickens down to the SPCA to have them euthanized. I don't know what you have in mind for getting rid of chickens that no longer lay eggs.
Your Worship, staff has not contemplated where they would take them. Similar to, I guess, hunters that bring back their game, they take them to certain people that have them butchered. And I'm sure there's people in the region that would be able to provide that service, or we're providing new opportunity for people to provide that service. But it can't happen on the property at this point.
It can't, no. That's just one question.
Okay. Now we're going to struggle into DP 242.
Just received the report.
Yep. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Kind of a long report. DP 242 at 275 Nicholl Street, staff recommendation that the council issued development permit number DP 242 at 275 Nicholl Street with the following variances. 1, required front yard setback, Nicholl Street and Provincial Highway, that the required front yard setback is 7.5 meters or 4.6 feet. The proposed building setback is 4.5 meters or 14.8 feet. A proposed variance of 3 meters or 9.8 feet, and the proposed setback for the entry portico is 0.6 meters or 2 feet. A proposed variance of 6.9 meters or 22.6 feet. What is your pleasure on that?
Move those 2 recommendations.
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The minimum landscape treatment level, Farquhar Street. The minimum landscape buffer along Farquhar Street is 1.8 meters or 6 feet. The site conditions require proposed variance in width from 1.8 meters or 6 feet to 0 meters. And could it maybe a motion, or maybe we'll do the second one as well, the north property line. The required landscape buffer along the north property line is 1.8 meters or 6 feet. The proposed buffer is 0.6 meters or 2 feet. A variance of 1.2 meters or 4 feet.
Move the 2 recommendations.
Second
Moved and
motion.
seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. RA 199 at 240 Nickel Street. Staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.459, which is presented under bylaws section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure a lane dedication and to register a covenant to secure stormwater pre-development flows, erosion and sediment control plan, community contribution, and to replace the parking and access easement and covenant.
Move the 2 recommendations.
Second motion.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Yes.
May I just ask a question, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Just going back to DP 242-275 Nickel Street, was there 2 motions or recommendations contained in there, or does the one recommendation cover the...
Well, we voted separately on the 2 items.
Okay.
The front yard setback one, which is the first dot on it, and then moving down to the second dot, minimum landscape treatment level.
Are they both covered under the recommendation?
Well, yes, they are, and we voted 1 and 2 on the first one and 1 and 2 on the second. Is that correct? Okay. Unsightly premises 391 Albert Street's been pulled. Unsightly premises at 1009 Bruce Avenue. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 1009 Bruce Avenue. And is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters 1009 Bruce Avenue? Staff recommendation that council pursuant to property maintenance bylaw 1990 number 3704 and amendments thereto direct the owners of 1009 Bruce Avenue to remove household furniture, household debris, household garbage, construction material, a derelict blue automobile, and miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days. The work will be undertaken by the city's agents at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unsightly premises 111 Terminal 11 has been pulled. We'll move into, and 190 Wall Street as well. Moved into item J, unresolved building deficiencies. Notice on title section 5.7. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies or illegal suites for the properties listed below. And note that the staff recommendation is the council by resolution instruct the Director of Legislative Services to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the properties listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia under section 5.7 of the Community Charter. The very first property is 1041 Mon Road. Illegal construction, locating of modular offices in a fabric-covered building. Anyone here that would like to speak to matters related to that site? Sir? Yes, sir. Come forward.
My name is Paul Berry. I've been asked to come in and represent Nanaimo Wood Products Recycling.
Okay.
I'll try and keep my presentations very brief, but as long as they've got all of your ears, then if you can give me a moment to give you a brief history. Nanaimo Wood Products Recycling started out as Island West Forest Products, where we would simply take logs and turn them into lumber and usable products. As a result of that, of course, you have to deal with how do we handle our wood waste. I cut a round tree into square sticks, I'm going to have waste. Once we figured out how to handle our waste, it made a great deal of sense to be able to move that forward and be able to deal with other people's wood waste. So we went out and we purchased Nanaimo Wood Products Recycling. Where we started to get complex in this nature is because amalgamating the 2 companies, we've run into a few administrative and largely clerical issues. So while I would first present to you that we are men of honor and we didn't go out of our way to pick a fight with the City of Nanaimo, we're very willing to work with you on it. The issues at hand here, as my friend will certainly attest, we are undertaking to address. The particular building in question was led to us to believe by City of Nanaimo Building Inspections Department to be normally treated as a tent. And although that particular structure doesn't necessarily fit exactly as a tent under the BC Building Code, it also does not fit as a structure. So we've been working very diligently to work within the rules and continue to maintain a very viable and productive working relationship with the City of Nanaimo, and we certainly intend to continue with that. With the issues that have been brought forward by the City of Nanaimo, we have undertaken to contract with an engineering firm to present to the City of Nanaimo our proposed use of the amalgamated businesses on the property at Mon Road. We certainly are intending on continuing to push recycling forth in a manner that's going to make Nanaimo the envy of the rest of the province and, in fact, the free world on wood recycling.
Okay, just from staff, can we get an update on it from the city's side?
Well, Your Worship, I think the gentleman's making a lot of very valid points, but normally in these situations the city would proceed to register the Section 57 notice, and if these items are corrected, as the gentleman indicates they will be, then it would be removed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to downplay the importance of making sure that any misunderstandings from the past get corrected. Brought forward, unfortunately, I was brought in at the 11th hour, and so we have from Herald Engineering a letter of commitment to ensure that the proper paperwork gets filed with the City of Nanaimo. We intend on pursuing that. Should be completed, I would suggest, within 30 days. I think that's a reasonable working time.
That's the amount of time you'll be allowed, 30 days under that.
Yeah.
So if you are able to complete it within that period of time?
I believe we will have it completed within that time. I certainly apologize for any misunderstandings that were brought about on our part.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, the next one on the list is number 10, Pirates Lane, building code deficiencies, incomplete building permit for addition. The third is 646 Farquhar Street, building code deficiencies, incomplete building permit for additional dormers to convert the attic to living space. The fourth, 2353 Panorama Avenue, illegal construction, enclosed carport and finished basement. Number 5, 1360 Discovery Avenue, building code deficiencies, incomplete building permit for a deck addition and with storage below. And the number 6, 635 Halliburton Street, building code deficiencies, incomplete building permit for a deck. And that covers the list. There's nobody in attendance that wants to speak to those items other than the first delegation for one.
Move the prepared resolution.
Second motion.
All in favor? Sorry, opposed, carried. Move into item K, unresolved building deficiencies bylaw contravention notice, marijuana grow operation at 94 Milton Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies in a grow operation at 94 Milton Street. And the staff's recommendation that council by resolution instruct the Director of Legislative Services to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the property listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority in British Columbia under Section 5.7 of the Community Charter. The 94 Mill Street, it's okay. Anything, anyone here that wants to speak to matters related to that?
Move the prepared resolution.
Seconder?
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
No, Mr. Chair, I was just asking if those sites come on, the TV and on there so the audience at home can see them?
Do we have the overheads for those?
We don't normally do those for illegal construction or building code deficiencies because they're hard to show in the pictures. We normally do them for unsightly
And I think
purposes.
also in addition, if it's marijuana grow operation, we really don't want to see the picture right now, I don't think.
Yeah, but we just want to see the pot plants.
Thank you very much. Item L, structural removal order, illegal grow operation 94 Milton Street. Is this not much the same? Oh, this is a structural removal order in this case. And for the illegal grow operation, it's recommended that council hear anyone wishing to speak to with respect to that operation at 94 Milton Street. There doesn't appear to be anyone in attendance.
Prepared resolution.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Corporate Services, Regional District of Nanaimo, Regional Growth Management Services Amendment Bylaw 1553.02, dated 2010. Staff recommendation, the Council waive the consent requirements under Section 801.4 of the Local Government Act by consenting to the adoption of Regional District of Nanaimo Regional Growth Management Services Amendment Bylaw number 1553.02, 2010, and that the Regional District of Nanaimo be notified accordingly.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Information items only.
Move receipt of the information items only.
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Reconsideration of bylaws. Do you want me to do that one? That you're the acting mayor. Okay. That the financial plan bylaw number 2010 number 7097 to conform and adopt the financial plan be adopted.
Second motion.
Moved. I don't know if I'm moving that. I'll put that on there. And That's the only problem.
To be adopted. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to vote. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said second.
Okay, so is there someone who'd like to move that? You're going to move it? Yeah. And is there a second? Move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Introduction of Sorry, go ahead. Are you on here?
Well, anyway, so she can record the...
You're opposed?
Correct.
Okay, and you're opposed? And you're opposed. Okay, sorry, wasn't looking. And you're opposed. So wait a minute now on this one, financial plan bylaw. So we have 4 opposed. We have, could we have those in favor again? 1, 2, 3, 4. And those opposed? We have 1, 2, 3...
4.
4. Okay, so
motion defeated.
It fails on a tie vote. Okay, introduction of bylaws, that licensing and control of animals amendment bylaw number 2010, number 4923.06, to include poultry up to 4 chickens or ducks and excluding roosters within the city of on lots less than 0.4 hectares or 1 acre in size be given the first reading.
Second motion.
No, we need someone to move it and second it.
I'll move it.
Okay, and a seconder? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That licensing and control... Sorry, go ahead.
Opposed.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're opposed?
Well, normally, Mr. Chairman.
Well, normally someone else reads this. This screws the whole thing up. As the acting mayor, but he relented on this. So let's get someone else moving this thing and get a seconder on this thing. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Sherry opposed, balance of council in favor. It passes. The licensing and control of animals amendment bylaw 2010 number 4923.06 be given second reading. And someone would move that? And seconder. All in favor? Opposed? I see Councillor Sherry opposed, balance of council in favor. Motion passes. And item 3, the same thing be given a third reading. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sherry opposes, balance of council in favor. The motion passes. 14B, section 1, the Economic Development Commission bylaw number 2010-7098 to establish the Economic Development Commission be given the first reading. Someone would move that?
So moved.
Seconder? All in favor?
Question, please.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Paget.
Just to comment, Your Worship, well, I will be obviously voting for this bylaw. And I'm very glad that this council took me up on my suggestion a week ago to include someone from the academic community of Nanaimo. I have done quite a bit of homework and research on how these commissions work in other places, and I have come to the conclusion that the best ones have an element of someone who would be included that has a social planning background, as well as someone who has very solid environmental credentials. And while I said earlier that I will vote on the present composition, I hope that when it comes to the appointment of the at-large people that you will at least consider a social planning component and an environmental component as well.
We shall so consider.
Your Worship.
Councillor Kipp.
I snuck one in there when you're looking the other way. How many people are on the committee that we have proposed now?
We haven't structured it yet, but it'll be up to 13.
Up to 13. I don't think it could be too big of a committee, and I totally support the idea of the academic community, the social planning community, and the environment community being on this committee too. I think it's hugely important for our future. It's the base of triple bottom line accounting. It ties it together for the future, and I hope the committee can see its way through to that, and I will support it as it stands.
Okay. Take you off there. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. The same bylaw be given the second reading. All in favor? Sorry, is there a seconder? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And for the third time.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Introduction of development bylaws, that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.459, RA 119 to rezone 240 Dickel Street for commercial service zone, C113 to comprehensive development district zone, CD7, in order to facilitate a multifamily development, be given first reading.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? carried. And that the same bylaw amendment be given the second reading.
So moved.
Seconder, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Correspondence? Is there a seconder?
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Going into other business, at the regular meeting of council held Monday, 2010, January 25, Councillor Holdham put forward the following notice of motion, that staff arrange a seminar session for council to review the liquor control strategy, which was actually done in 2002, the Nelson Welsh report, to evaluate, among other issues, the strategies relevant to the changed conditions in the city's downtowns since the strategy adoption.
Councillor, I'd move the motion, Your Worship.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're moving into item 20, delegations pertaining to items not on the agenda, and we have Ms. Janet Irvine, 609. Janet? Welcome. We just need your name and address for the file, please.
Janet Irvine, 609 First Street, Nanaimo. Is this on?
It is on.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Rattan and councillors. 2 years ago this month, the Council of the Day endorsed the city's application for provincial funding in order to conduct a provincial wood stove exchange program in Nanaimo. Those of you who were on council at the time may recall that I addressed council at that meeting. I understand that after that meeting, the city began to log complaints regarding excessive residential wood smoke emissions in the spring of 2008. To my knowledge, residents had never before been encouraged to report such complaints prior to that time. After spending countless hours communicating with the city about the topic of excessive residential wood smoke in our immediate neighborhood and making suggestions, it was encouraging to know that the city's participation in the program would provide an opportunity for the public education and outreach on the topic. In March of last year, with the commencement of the Consumer Rebate Program, which provides an incentive to residents who voluntarily exchange their uncertified wood-burning appliance for a certified one, public discussion did begin, and it is good to see that more collaboration is taking place. My advocacy in this matter also resulted in the BC Lung Association reintroducing its monthly support group meetings in Nanaimo last year. The subject matter involves education, awareness, and the rights of all residents. And rights usually have responsibilities attached to them. 2 years ago, I provided the city with a copy of the Model Municipal Bylaw 2006 that was created by Environment Canada in collaboration with industry and government. The bylaw addresses excessive residential wood smoke as the health-related nuisance that it is. As previously advised, the bylaw was enacted by Powell River in 2005. As mentioned in my letter, which was published in the News Bulletin on April 15, 2009, the model includes a two-step enforcement policy, where the first offense is dealt with by a warning, accompanied by a clean burning education component, and a ticket is issued for a second offense. And for your information, the previous mayor felt that the city should err on the side of public safety and issue a warning or a ticket to those who don't voluntarily learn how to burn efficiently. Among other things, the model bylaw also addresses the types of fuels permitted and prohibited burning materials, etc. My experience with this matter included contacting a Nanaimo fire captain regarding a public safety issue involved in a case where the smoke emissions occur when no one is at home. And to my amazement, I was informed that it was an environmental matter. Sometime after that, Nanaimo firefighters had to attend a house fire on Protection Island last September, and the media reported that a wood stove fire was involved after the resident had left his home. I recall that the previous council voted in favor of providing insurance coverage to firefighters to cover them for all forms of cancer, I believe. All residents are paying the wages and benefits of those who are employed by this municipality. What about some consideration for the health and welfare of the rest of us? The president of the Wood Energy Technicians of BC was quoted in an article published in February 2008 entitled, "Why That Smoking Chimney is More Dangerous Than Cozy." And he said, "Smoke is no good for you, it's dangerous for your health." He also said, "If you can smell or see smoke from your chimney, you are doing something wrong." He is the gentleman who conducts the Burn It Smart workshops in Nanaimo. After reading the article, it struck me that the industry technicians are certified by the Wood Energy Technicians of BC organization. Why is there no certification requirement for the resident whose sole source of heat is wood and whose practice produces smoke emissions and odor on a continuous basis? No doubt you have heard from residents who say that they cannot afford to heat their home any other way, and that it would impose hardship on them if they could not use a wood stove. However, hardship should not be imposed on any resident, including those who find themselves directly polluted upon by their neighbour, and then are told by councillors Kipp and Unger that it's a civil matter. What about the rights of children and others with asthma and other forms of COPD? PM 2.5 is the worst public health problem from air pollution in BC. The BC Lung Association has recently confirmed to me that this year chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is expected to be the third leading cause of death in Canada, and that lung cancer is now the leading cause of cancer deaths among women. On December 14th, when a Nanaimo resident appeared before council, Councillors Kipp and Unger appeared to recognize the seriousness of the matter of residential nuisance smoke pollution on city lots. And Council directed staff to review the nuisance bylaw and other applicable bylaws in relation to nuisance wood stove smoke. However, at the January 11th Council meeting, after another resident appeared before Council on the same topic, and before staff had reported back to Council and the public, it was notable to hear two councillors state that this environmental and health matter is a civil matter. Those councillors being the chair of the Environment Committee, Councillor Kipp, as well as Councillor Unger. I am puzzled as to how Councillors Kipp and Unger arrived at their decision-making on this, as when Council was presented with another environmental health-related topic which dealt with the use of cosmetic pesticides on residential lawns and flower gardens, a majority of this Council, as well as the previous Council, saw fit to direct staff to draft a bylaw and provide the sum of $25,000, which I understand is or has been spent on promotional materials. I understand that staff has carried out this directive. I wonder if the advisory committee on whom you rely advised you how the city was going to enforce such a bylaw. In your decision-making, if you are considering the health of children and other vulnerable residents, then what about the adverse impact of the PM 2.5 and various other toxic pollutants that children are exposed to when breathing wood smoke in their yards and neighborhoods? In the event that you are not aware of same, the Supreme Court of Canada in 2001, in the pesticide case, upheld the right of municipalities to protect the health of their residents against environmental threats in communities. This judgment, however, was not restricted to the use of pesticides for cosmetic purposes on residential property, the same principles apply to the excessive residential wood smoke emissions. At the December 14th council meeting, Councillor Kipp pointed out that with a 5-foot yard setback on a city lot, a chimney's wood smoke emissions are, of course, extremely close to their neighbour. Councillor Kipp, my husband and I were unsuccessful in our attempt to communicate with you in December. If it appears that there's a flaw in the provincial building code in this regard, I wonder if you have considered addressing this in a proactive manner and perhaps approaching the Union of BC Municipalities, as I am personally aware that this is not the only municipality whose residents are exposed to a neighbour's ongoing smoke emissions. I understand that when preparing a resolution for UBCM, the following 3 questions are asked. What is the problem? What is causing the problem? What is the best way to solve the problem? You are charged with protecting the health, safety, and general welfare of children and all residents in their neighbourhoods. And the topic of secondhand smoke emissions from city lots is not unlike that of secondhand smoke from tobacco. McMaster University chemist Brian McCary advises...
I'll just mention you've had your 10 minutes, so if you could wrap it up, please.
Thank you. I am. Thank you. Advises that, quote, the toxic content of smoke from fireplaces and old-fashioned wood stoves is similar to that of diesel exhaust and tobacco smoke. The chemical composition of wood smoke, especially from low-temperature fires, is really nasty. Civil society has recognized the rights of non-smokers in that they are adequately protected from exposure to tobacco smoke. What about the rights of residents who are directly impacted by the persistent and pervasive smoke emitted by neighbors who burn for more than 6 months of the year, some of whom are heedless of the right of others? I look forward to reading the staff report that Council requested on December 14th. If I may, I now have just a couple of photos to quickly show you.
You're over the time now. You know yourself, you've watched council for months, probably years. 10 minutes is 10 minutes. It's, you know, be fair to all the delegates. And there's some other delegations that want to be heard tonight. So we're up to 11 minutes and 12 seconds at this point. So maybe you could set that for another meeting if you could for and show the pictures later.
I haven't been here as long as Mr. Taylor. I just moved here in 2001. Mayor Rattan.
You haven't been before us in that time? I can remember delegations from before. Anyway, if you want to show a couple of quick pictures, fine, but we can't give you any more time to speak on it, that's all.
No, I'm not. I'm finished. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Question to staff, if I may. Mrs. Irvine referred to the council meeting of the 14th of December where we were asking for a report. Is there a timeline on when we may see that?
Your Worship, staff is anticipating sometime at the end of March.
Okay. And a follow-up, if I may, Your Worship. Are there jurisdictions the size of Nanaimo where they have handled things differently and are into this wood stove exchange program and so on and so forth?
Your Worship, the research that I've seen to date in terms of the bylaws that have been adopted of similar communities, I would have difficulty recommending the ones that I've seen. The enforcement of the bylaws becomes a little bit challenging, and that's partly what we'll report back to Council as part of the options.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Delegation. Seconder? Move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Excuse me. I was going to show a couple of pictures, if I may. The first picture's on the wall.
Yeah, that's been up for 10, actually it's been up for 12 minutes and 48 seconds, as a matter of fact. So is there another picture?
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other delegations here that would like to speak to items not on the agenda? They have up to 10 minutes. Okay, question period. Now it's agenda items only. Did you have something, ma'am?
I have one question regarding the issue I just spoke about. Actually, Councillor...
Well, we're trying to do it within the 10 minutes allowed. You're now considerably over that. Do not...
This is question period, is it not, Mayor Rattan?
Well, this was, we were starting off here with delegations pertaining to items not on the agenda. Then we'll move into question period. But with your delegation, we haven't had a chance to move into the next one yet. So do you want to wait and do that one now? We're just going to move into question period for agenda items only?
That's your question.
Yeah, on agenda items is what you're saying?
I thought you said we were in question period, and I was going to ask a question, Mayor Rattan.
Sure, go ahead. I'm not sure where we are, but anyway.
Councillor Patchy asked the first question I was going to ask. Thank you. My question on that would be, a few years ago, the Council of the Day decided to ban backyard burning on city lots. And I guess I'll ask this question through to staff through the chair. What was the major reason for making that decision?
Staff can't speak for the previous council. We're certainly aware of the background, and I think that Mrs. Irvin is well aware that there was lots of community discussion and debate about the health effects of the particulate matter from the burning, and I think that informed council in its decision making.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have one question regarding the licensing and control of animal bylaw revision. I fully support sourcing local food. However, I noticed that the licensing and control of animals bylaw has been amended by staff on your agenda tonight, and it contains, I guess in my view, a wish list regarding the maintenance of the poultry on city lots. From personal experience, I know that the city already has bylaw issues such as garbage, unsightly premises, that it can't seem to get a handle on, and I'm just wondering how, I guess in my view, after reading the amendments to that bylaw, I don't really think that it's really going to be enforced. I can see that it's very time consuming and with what they have to do now, and can't seem to get a handle on. I fail to see how the amended bylaw would be enforced. And I guess, so that is my question.
Yeah, you're going to get to the question?
Pardon?
This is the question period. Do you have a question you're going to ask?
So I'm wondering, staff use the resources of the city to make those amendments to the bylaw, correct, I believe?
Mr. Kenny, do you want to have a go at this one?
Your Worship, staff are definitely making a recommendation at Council's request to provide a recommendation on the keeping of chickens and ducks.
I might just if I can, remind you, the bylaw that was passed tonight is the Licensing and Control of Animal Amendment Bylaw 2010, and the number to include poultry up to 4 chickens or ducks and excluding roosters within the city on lots less than 0.04 hectare or 1 acre in size be given a first reading. And so I don't think we got into any more technical detail that in the bylaw. Maybe I misunderstood your question.
Thank you, that's okay.
Is your question, how is this bylaw going to be enforced?
Yes.
Worship, enforcement, like other city bylaws, will be on a complaint basis, and like other bylaws, the way the bylaws work is if they are supported by the majority of the citizens through cooperation.
Thank you. Anything else would you want to add?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other delegations here that want to speak to in the question period? These are agenda items only now? Well, okay, is there a seconder? We stand adjourned. Question period now? Question period, we're into agenda items only. Is it an item on the agenda?
Yes, Serge Valancourt.
Is it an item on the agenda?
Yes, it is, Your
okay.
Worship.
And, what number is the agenda? What number on the agenda?
It was the same bylaw that the lady just spoke of, animal bylaw. And what I would like to have answered is why...
Just one second. Did we get his name and address for the file?
Yes, Serge Valancourt.
No, I'm just asking if they did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, and your question is?
In earlier discussion, I'm to understand that it is to be enforced by municipal bylaw enforcement officers. Is that correct?
Combined with animal control officers, yes.
Oh, combined with animal control officers. The reason why I'm asking this is because the animal control officers just received a contract, and I was told that one of the reasons why that happened is not to inconvenience staff for off-hours complaints. So will that be part of their responsibility then to respond to those calls if there are such calls? And I'm not opposed to the bylaw whatsoever. I'm just asking clinical questions to have it clear in my mind how this is going to be enforced.
Well, I think, did you not answer the question that it was going to be a combination?
Yeah, there would be a
Go ahead,
combination, and we would be working with the pound to, if this becomes an issue, to work out a system that we respond to after our calls. Okay. But at this point, we're not sure how that may take apart.
The bylaw has just been passed tonight, so we really don't know exactly how the enforcement will unfold, but it certainly will do, and it'll be complaint-driven.
Okay. Can you give me some assurance then that any additional costs that might be come from this bylaw enforcement will not be impacted on dog owners, as Mr. Taylor's point was made earlier, I believe?
Well, I very much doubt that it will be. I think unless the dog owners want to voluntarily contribute, which I think would be unlikely.
Well, no. I only have one more question, and my understanding is now that the bylaw enforcement officers, the pound keepers, are going to be going door to door, and are they providing additional staff to do this? Because their contract required them to have 4 officers and one additional one in the summer months at a cost of $20,000 to the taxpayers. And if they're going to have a person go door to door, that is going to be a huge amount of hours that's going to deter from
have a go at that. Well, you've asked the question. Let the gentleman answer.
Your Worship, there will be no, this proposal by the current contractor is their proposal. It won't increase the cost of the contract. Whether they hire people to achieve their goals or not is totally up to them, but the fixed cost of the contract would not change.
Brought up.
With all due respect, you cannot entertain a door-to-door campaign.
Okay, well, just a minute. You're asking questions.
Yes.
Here, okay?
Right.
And the question you asked was, how will it be done? And you heard the answer.
I did not hear the answer. I did not hear the answer. I heard the answer. It would be at no additional cost to us.
The answer was that it's on a contract basis. It's a flat fee contract basis.
Correct.
And this door-to-door service, if implemented by them, will be within the confines of that contract. There'll be no additional cost. Your question, will there be additional costs? The answer, no.
Okay, let me rephrase the question then. Will staff ensure that additional staffing is provided to do that door-to-door campaign? Because I cannot, for the life of me, see...
Is this not covered by the contracts that we're talking
Your Worship,
about?
Probably the misconception is likely they will not attend every household within the city. They'll do some sampling of the households, but it's totally up to the contractor on how they wish to proceed. It's within their contract, and no further funds will be provided to them.
Yeah, the service that we're talking about, the door-to-door service, is built into the contract that we have let with them, and we've accepted the contract with them. And so this is not going to be an additional service. It's part of the contract. And there'll be no additional cost to anyone involved. And I just don't want you to suggest that there's an additional cost coming from this, because there is not.
There's going to be loss of service on the other end. I mean, if we had to request... There has to be a loss of service on the other end.
You need to ask a question. This is a question period.
Okay,
you have a question.
I have not been answered that they will hire extra staff to do this. My question is,
what you might want to do.
And the answer is not forthcoming.
Have you had a chance to talk to our staff about the contract?
I'm still waiting.
Have you had a chance to talk to our staff?
Through the Freedom of Information Act, I've requested information. Then I've had to appeal.
I think it's a public document. I would suggest.
Well, they wouldn't provide it to me. I was told I had to access it through the Freedom of Information Act. And currently have been presented a bill for the photocopying, which I decided to challenge it because it's beyond ridiculous. And all I'm trying to do is get some clear answers. Quite frankly, Your Worship, I understand this is question period, and my question, I believe, is quite valid. I am asking if this contractor is going to provide additional manpower to give us this wish list of door-to-door knocking. When you put out that contract to tender, you did not ask for this additional service. It was stated in the newspaper.
And this is the question, is it? Are you making a statement or are you asking a question? Just so we understand.
I'm asking a question.
And the question again was, it's been answered once.
In the tender that went out, did you request this door-to-door campaign?
No.
Do we have another go at the answer for this gentleman? Is that
Your Worship, we did not provide this as a requirement for people bidding on the contract. This contractor put it in their proposal, and it was one of the items which led staff to choose them.
So the contractor suggested this.
Exactly.
And the contract is going to be for a fixed amount, and he will provide these services. I've repeated myself several times. He'll provide these services within the amount that's already been agreed to.
I understand that. I just question.
Then what are you asking, sir? I don't understand.
Because I cannot fathom without additional manpower how you can do this.
You keep asking the same question, and you're getting the same answer. There's a contract in place, okay? Right. And I can't explain that any better.
But the contract doesn't require him to do that.
Yeah, well, okay. You're running out of time. Councillor Kipp, do you have something you want to ask?
Well, I just wonder if Mr. Valancourt's concern is that this time we're getting something for free. It's been offered to us, and next time we're going to have to pay for it.
No, it's like the volunteers at the Olympics. They're volunteering, but they're being paid by BC Hydro. This guy is being paid to do another job. He's going to use those people to go door knocking, and that's why he's getting the contract. My question is he hiring additional people?
Serge, if I can, how I can explain that is we put out a contract. It had certain things built into it.
Right.
This person met those and added something to it that he says he can get done for that amount of money. So the staff reviewed that and says, we're getting this from this contractor, so many services, and he's adding this. So for the same amount of money, we're getting that extra service.
Okay,
and
maybe this is the wrong way to go about answering my question. I apologize. It just seems to me that it's physically impossible to go door knocking in this city and still do the work that you commit to do.
Okay, well, I think he just answered the question.
I totally agree with you. I think it's an odd process, but they offered it to us and we picked them up.
Okay, well, anyways, I apologize for the confusion. It's just like...
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, this is what we get paid for. This is what we get paid for. Come on.
A couple of quickies. One, do I understand that... What was your name,
sir?
We need name and address.
Ron Boland. I live at 3165 King Richard Drive.
Thank you.
I want to make sure, do I understand that having passed the dog off-leash park recommendation this evening, that as of tomorrow morning or midnight tonight, Beaufort Park, Diver Lake Park, and Colliery Dam Park are open for off-leash use. Is that correct?
Your Worship, these regulations probably won't be in place until May. So there will be a phase-in period. There'll be some notification period, and there'll be some, in certain cases, minor improvements undertaken at the park. So it will take a few months to get these underway.
Okay, that's okay. I just want to make sure I understood it. The second question deals with bylaw 7097, which I believe, if I understand correctly, failed this evening in its
on the budget. Yes, it failed. It was a tie vote and it failed.
I'm not sure under the circumstances whether to follow up on that or not, but I guess I will. As part of Schedule B of that document, it states that wherever possible, fees and charges will be used to assign costs to those who benefit from the service provided. The proportion of the costs recovered by fees and charges will vary with the nature of the service provided. And it is further stated that parcel taxes will be used whenever council determines they are more appropriate than property taxes. This question, the first question, certainly came up this evening, and with regard to bicycles, chickens, licensing, and animal control, regarding a number of services that we seem to be providing to particular parties at no expense or to the general taxpayer expense. But I'm more interested this evening in following up on the discussion at the last council meeting regarding lowering taxes by collecting parcel taxes for sidewalks, storm sewers, etc., which service individual neighborhoods, but currently are taken totally out of general revenue funds. There was a time a few years ago when if you wanted a local improvement that didn't happen when your development took place, that a vote was taken in your neighborhood, and if that vote were successful, you were subsidized, but you had a parcel tax of at least 50% of the cost of that local improvement. I would like to know why we left that policy, and particularly given what we state here about our objectives and policies in this regard. So why did we leave it? Why are we not going back to it? In which case, we could reduce our taxes significantly, and at the same time allocate scarce resources by an objective purpose.
Okay, I just make one observation that obviously the financial plan and the bylaw that was presented tonight that dealt with a great deal of that stuff has failed. So, it obviously means we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and come up with a plan. Whether that item still will be on the next plan when it's presented or not, I don't know. And would the staff like to make a comment on it?
Sure, Your Worship. In fact, the budget that was in front of Council did include some funds for local improvement, so that option is still there. But the reason that hasn't been used widely in the recent past is because there wasn't broad support for it in the neighborhoods, and many of the initiatives that came forward were defeated. And what ended up resulting was generally an unsatisfactory situation for the community, because sidewalks weren't getting built, and the community in general wanted sidewalks. So Council decided to budget separately for it from general revenue, and that's what happened.
Okay, I just find it a little... you say that they wouldn't vote for them, but they wanted them. I mean, there is some illogic there in the juxtaposition of those statements, and I do believe that if we are going to allocate scarce tax resources, and I think we had something like 40 kilometers of sidewalks to develop, there has to be a rational process for doing that. And typically in our capitalist society that has been, if you want it, you're going to pay for it. And in this case, the city used to be generous enough to say we will support about half of that cost. But I do think we should be looking at that policy again. I don't think we're in a situation where we can afford too many freebies these days. I'm one of those people, by the way, without a sidewalk. I'd like to have one. Do I have to wait 20 years, or can I get it tomorrow, or how do I get allocated?
I just checked, Ron. You're actually 32 years away on yours. No. Hang on. Councillor Holden has a question.
Yeah.
Your Worship, one example of where it doesn't work that well is where we're trying to provide sidewalks to schools, and so it passes by homes. They may not have children, they may not be interested in having a sidewalk, but we're providing it anyway because it has general community benefit. So in those kinds of cases, we can't rely on a local improvement program to pass or fail. We need to do it because it needs to be done. I think that's...
I think there are a lot of things that could be done.
There's a lot of
things that could be done.
In fact, most of the things that the city does are of general benefit, most of the expensive things anyways.
Well, as you say, the policy objective of bylaw 7097 is that A, parcel taxes will be used, and B, the charges will be used to assign cost to those who benefit. If you'd like to change that policy or those objectives, certainly I believe Council is free to do so, but at the present time, those are your policies and objectives.
Just one thing to add, Your Worship, and that is that because the provision is still in the budget and because of that statement, we do generally have a policy that if a neighborhood wanted to jump the queue, for example, and get sidewalks faster than the 32 years or however many number of years it might be, then they could do a local improvement, and that would allow them to jump to the head of the line.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, is there anyone else?
Fred Taylor of 204 Emery Way. With the rejection of the financial plan, I'm just wondering if we're currently expending of money in 2010 that would be part of that budget?
Your Worship, I think Mr. Taylor is pointing out a significant issue for the city. However, they need not worry about whether the expenditures are authorized because they're authorized under the second year of the 2009 to 2013 financial plan. So anything that was in that plan is authorized. Where the urgency to having the current plan adopted relates to specifically to changes from that plan, and so. That's an important issue.
So with monies being expended at this time, you can't reconsider the vote tonight? Under council procedure bylaw?
I didn't hear the question.
I think, Mr. Taylor, that we're missing one member of council here this evening.
He can reconsider, but can he when there's money being expended already by staff?
Well, it's the bylaw, and the bylaw, if staff correct me, the financial bylaw has to be finally adopted by May the 15th. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So therefore, we have in the past expended funds up until that final adoption. So the bylaw that failed today because of a deal can be brought back at our next meeting.
Okay.
Move we adjourn?
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Adjourned.